I'm happy to come here today with your invitations. This is my second visiting this house, and the subject which I meant to be given to talk to you, it's the subject which I ever given for the first time. So I'm a baby in the moment. So yesterday I looked at the program. I read a wrong way, Buddhist everyday life, and unfortunately it's meant to be money in Buddhist, so I read it wrong. So I thought very hard this evening during the meal time what I'm going to do. Something to do with the Buddhist, something to do with the money. And of course, every of us depend on the money, but to talk a long time, whether I'm going to talk in German mark or English pounds, I wasn't sure what the subject is going to be. I suppose we have to talk some kind of connection of Buddhist people with wealth and money, and something to do with how those two can be coordinated without contradictory each other. When we talk a Buddha, it means awakened state of each of us, and therefore each of us inherited the essence of Buddha every human existence, and each of us depend German mark or money, so there must be some similarity. But then I suppose order to see the pureness of essence of a Buddha, we have to unveil all the negativities which we inherited for many lives. I suppose from beginningless up to now, whatever that we inherited, we have to unveil in order to see this essence of Buddha. But the essence of Buddha is not which we are getting from outside, but it's already inherited by ourselves. But since this covered with by impurity, and it looks like we do not have the essence of Buddha in ourselves. It appears like we are not heritage. So my second statement is in order to earn money, that the wisdom which we have to achieve is in ourselves. The seed of wisdom, it's in ourselves. But by degree and by qualification, when we attempt that, then we reached certain level of qualification, then we can earn a better money. So as you say that the essence of the Buddha in ourselves, but in order to be enlightened, we have to purify it. The wisdom which is already in ourselves, but this wisdom have to be materialized, and once it is awakened, then we have good education and we have good positions, and then we have good income and good living, good comfortable homes. So I think when we talk the preciousness of human body is very much depend on understanding, and also it's very much depends on the health of the person. Now, if one has good health and physically, and this will gives the opportunity that mind is in a much better position. Of course, it's not necessarily good health may have a bad mind, but many times that we have problem with health. Through this, then we have unhappy situation, and through unhappy situation, then mind can be interrupted without very happily. So unhappiness in mind can cause from due to unhealthy life. Now in Buddhist, they talk the first point and the foundations which we think, it's always mentioned the preciousness of human body. And the preciousness of human body, where they given the examples, is to freedom of yourself, free from all the obstacles, and free from whatever that holding you back, without able to carry out your own wishes. So it's not matter of how beautiful your body, it's not matter of what size of your body, but it's a matter of the preciousness is very much depend on the freedom itself. Now, I think order to have this freedom, then there is a freedom without wealth, and there is one can achieve freedom with wealth. So there is two types of freedom which you can have. So I think you're interested to freedom with wealth. up to now I'm talking freedom without wealth. So if you see that people who wants to do Dharma practice, like especially for 3-year retreat, wants to build monasteries, wants to build stupas, images. You can't build without money. And during the Buddha time, and 2000 years ago in India, that the life in India is a very simple life for the ordinary people. And many people, the Indian people, they do not even need it, or there is no required like even building houses for themselves, and therefore the sangha community, the sanghas, simply they can move around from one forest to next forest and support by the lay community wherever they move in. And also maintained of the sangha community is requirement is very little, because there is no transport cost, there is no electricity cost, there is no telephone cost. They don't have health insurances, so only maintain.
Krankenversicherung sagt man, glaube ich.
Only maintained they need is something to eat a one meal day, something to change, clothing for every 2 or 3 months, and at least one pair of extra clothing, so while one is a wash, and they can have the another one to change, and one cushion, and not much things to need to wearing, because the climate in India is very warm, and they have no any other requirement. And at the same time, there's many rich kings, and there's many small state kingdoms, and most of them are Buddhist, and therefore the wealth what they have, somehow they don't keep them safe all the time. And if we read stories about Buddha's life, and it's said like one king sponsored 500 monks for 3 months, something like feed every day for 3 months, or 1,000 monks feed for 6 months or something. So not as given money, but they gives food for the sangha community. At any way, the expenses are very limited, and but even that time, even its expenses are very limited, there's always taken care by the lay community and all the sanghas, wherever the sangha exists. When there was a change in India due to various culture different, political changements, and they brought Buddhism in a different parts of East, especially like Ceylon, in Tibetan, in China, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, many countries. At the same time, that the way of taking care of the sangha community is also introduced many countries similarity way. And some parts of the countries, when the people's life is changed, and then the monastery way of maintained, the institution of monastery changed according to each country slightly different. So I suppose I talk the way of sangha, way of the Buddhism, how it was exist in Tibetan, and what is the relationship in the wealth, and I suppose in another way money, and how it's worked together. I will talk basis on Tibetan. We have to talk and to try to understand the preservation of Buddhist is one thing, and how the Buddhist practice by lay community or sangha community is another thing, and how it's helped by the sangha community or institutions or monastery for the lay people's educations, health, and to generally, and that's the third thing, and how the lay people have to maintain the monastery and the institutions. So maybe it comes 4 different categories. First of all, I don't think any school of Buddhism do not say that the wealth is something wrong. But they do say if you use wealth is wrong way, it's a wrong thing. The wealth, it's said, could be a medicine if you know how to use. It's a heal somebody's sickness, medicine, and wealth can be poison if you don't know how to use this medicine, and then it's a kills. But it's not doing by the wealth itself, but by the people how to use the wealth. So if you have full of gold and completely fill this temple, the gold itself is not doing either positive or negative. Who's handled the gold could make a positive action and negative action. But gold itself doesn't jump around and say, I'm doing now positive, I'm doing negative. So therefore, I don't think any Buddhist are they fighting with money. On the other hand, I hope all the Buddhists they were not bank robbers.
Auf der
And
anderen
say
Seite,
the wealth is excellent. So, Buddhist, the idea of Buddhism is a middle way, which means that whatever that you inherited, whatever that you own by your knowledge, then this should use in the right way. And to use right way means the wealth to be used to have good life and good health. At least even you don't know about the virtue of merit into building monasteries, at least that your responsibility is your health and to improve your health through your wealth. So if you are a good Buddhist, you eat very well, you dress up nicely,
you what?
you dressed nicely, dress up,
Oh, dress.
and you can have very nice car, but you don't smoke too much, you don't drink too much, because they are way to killing yourself, because we know that they will kill us. And if your wealth is spending your cigarettes, your drink, then that cannot be a Buddhist person. It's like you carry a shotgun and facing to your head and ask to execution, say, please don't let me die for a few days. But you're the one who killing yourself, and there is no worth to request to somebody, please leave me not to die. So therefore, wealth is to enjoy, but wealth should not be to kill your life. So anyway, I go back now the subject in Tibetan, and the wealth, whatever that family inherited, should use to benefit for one's own health, one's own enjoyment. At the same time, that this should be also shared for spiritual benefit and to overcome people's poverties. So there is two types. One is for the spiritual benefit, one is overcome people's poverty. So therefore, if one of the family dies, and whether it's a rich family or poor family, whatever that they have the wealth shared equally, so the dead person's wealth, and then this may use for various monasteries or charitable work, or to give it for poor people. Monasteries' responsibility for their wealth is to say the prayer for the dead person and to whatever the wealth is offered to the monastery, and then that were put for the projects, which is building projects, retreat projects, or to projects for the prayers which you have to say it every day of the year. So financial projects. So therefore, the lay community, the family, is very much depends for the monastery. Without monastery, these prayers cannot say for the dead person. At the same time, the wealth cannot not only just benefit saying prayers, but continuation of saying prayers for many 50 or 60 years to come. And this, the asset of the whatever the money which they have, this will remain until the monastery is no longer exist. So it's very valuable for the family. At the same time, it's very valuable for the monastery as well. And therefore, that monastery cannot survive without people. People cannot be spiritual benefit without a monastery. So therefore, it's very strong link, the monastery and the people together. And in the teaching, it's said that the purification is the way to accumulation of the merit. So therefore, in order to develop the purification, then there is prostration and to recite a mantra and to practice a mandala. Within the mandala itself, then it's very much basis on to use one's own wealth, whatever that one possesses, to use in the correct way to build monasteries, build stupas, build images, to purchase the scriptures of the teaching of Lord Buddha, and sponsors any form of practice, and also to a charitable work. All these are part of mandala practice. Like in the mandala explanation, it's said, if you use your wealth to build like monasteries, and the merit of your wealth is continuation, even the monastery is no longer exist until the last last break. Until that dissolved, the merit will remain, and all the time, because the power of the prayer, by power of the people's share merit when it exists, the temple. So therefore, the temple is one of the longest merit if you want to achieve. It's not during the existence. It's said until the last break. Demolish, like break piece of bricks.
Oh, break. Okay.
Until the last break is no longer exist. Up to that your merit is just the same. It's a similarity if you build a prison, not a monastery, or execution place. The negativity will exist until the last break. It exists. Similarly. So the positive and negative both work equally. Not only positive will last long, negative will shorter, but both has the same length. So therefore, the Buddhist understanding this, by understanding this, and then to try to use the wealth in the right way to use for the benefit for the others. Of course, it does not have to be only a monastery or stupas, but it's shelter for poor people, help for somebody. Like if you look in India, the great kings, they simply planting big trees for the main road whole India. The whole idea is this tree, when they grow, everybody, when it's hot climate, they can sit under this tree, and it gives the wind and it gives the at least cool for during the hot time. And this also one good example to spending the money. And if you see the one tree which planted about 300 or 400 years ago, still benefiting for the even now for many millions of people, under each tree is given benefit. So this is also a Buddhist idea. Every main street where there is water tap for people can drink, wherever it's the hottest area, which start by many wiser people or like similar idea of Buddhist. And this is also idea of Buddhism, to help people overcome the thirst. Wherever you see, it's going to produce very much thirst for these people. So therefore that in Tibetan we do very much similarity to where there is many pilgrimage. People goes either summer place or winter place to give food, shelters, somewhere to sleep and something to eat. Not only thinking about monastery itself, but the lay people sponsored monastery were taking care of this. And this is the coordination between the people, lay people and the monastery. So the monastery will provide educations for the children, for the lay people. Monastery will provide for the hospital, medicines to the lay people. monastery provide kind of dramas, musics, entertainments for the lay people. So monastery and the monks or nuns community is very important for the lay community. At the same time, that lay community is equally important for the monasteries, financial side, and the sport community, and to taking care of many financial responsibilities. All these are taken by the lay community. Of course, there is several great teachers which they don't need other lay communities' financial help or a monastery's institution help, and they run away from both situation and to living entirely in snow mountains of Tibetan in various caves. And for those people is the richest person who has everything.
Who's that?
One who lives in caves, nothing to lose. He owns the whole world.
Oh, he himself thinks he's the
Yes.
richest.
No, he is the richest
Yeah, okay.
man. He has no more desire.
Okay.
And the rest people, of course, there is a rich, may not necessarily have to be rich from the money, but there is two types of rich. Rich in sense of satisfy one's own what one has. Rich sense of that and the poverties like financial side. So the understanding of richness is to one satisfy what one has, and to use this a wiser way is those people are more rich than any other people. I've been very rich when I was only 1 year old. Now I'm always poor.
No.
Because when I'm 1 year old, I have no desire. Now I have plenty of desires. So anyway, I think the kind of conclusion, I'm not sure whether it will be conclusion or whatever it is, since I'm confused from the beginning, still I'm confused at the end. But I think as a Buddhist person, the money and the Buddhist, they are not contradictory, but the Buddhist person to use the money, if one has, to use a useful way for benefit one's own spiritual development and to improve one's own conditions of the physical, and at the same time that one is not thinking all the time oneself, but to whatever that one can able to share, this to try to equally share for other people. So if you have any questions, you can do.